So this is an experiment to see how this looks, how this would work. Let's try to run through test video. Okay, so, I see a problem. Okay, so this is what we're going to look at today. Follow up on my two other whips tutorials for action figures. And so what I wanted to talk to you about is how to construct the whips using simple materials. So first of all, the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a pair of sewing scissors, good ones, sharp ones. A pair of tweezers, I like these plastic ones. A couple of what I call punchers, needle-like objects that are strong, so you can put pressure on to make holes. And one of the best is these push pin they use for dressmaking, sewing. These are temporary straight pins. Then you need your standard pliers with a cutter edge. I've got this is my favorite one because it has such leverage. This one's nice because it has cutouts for wire cutting. And then I always like a little cutter for fine wire. Here's one other example, just a plain snip. Then, so these are all for cutting and making, enlarging holes and so on. Then you're going to need some super glue. I use the Gorilla super glue brush and nozzle. Use the brush more than the nozzle. And then you're going to need some type of fire. This one from 6-Eleven, open 24 hours, just not in a row. So, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to have our mascot, Catwoman. You know, she does have a little whip there. And I always have a mascot for our videos. Also, I made a simple drying mat. See how I mounted, just made holes and mounted these Christmas ornament hangers. I have a whole bunch of those. You can get them real cheap, especially now after Christmas. And you can bend them in every way. They're easily bendable, but they're strong enough to hold. And you can use these to put the whip handles and ends on to dry, whether it's glue drying or paint drying. I just put some leaded weight so it stays. So, as far as materials, besides your tools, flexible garden tie. This is awesome. I'll be using that a lot. You can get that at any hardware store usually. And then optional is painted wire. This is a looks like floor craft example. Floor craft materials corp. But anyway, made in China, like everything. It's very thin, easily bendable. By the way, I'm trying a new technique with an overhead mounted camera that's static through a magnifying light. And we'll see how that works. So, here's an example of how to use this flexible garden tie. So you make the length you want. Always make it longer than you think you're going to need, because you can always make it shorter. You can't make it longer. That's the rule. And so the other thing you're gonna need here is dental floss. I get the cheapest stuff, 55 yards at Rite Aid. I get the wax stuff because that's going to play into after you use it to wrap the handle or also to bind ends. Here's an example of an end that I bound, and then you're gonna heat it up a little, and the wax will melt and form a better bond. Here's another example of using it as a binder. I bound this little nub I took off that action figure pre-made whip light thing, and I also ran it through here. I haven't painted it yet, but I ran it through the loops when I cut the loops, just to make it more whip-like at the end. And here's an example after I wrapped and painted the end. So, you said there's all different kinds of dental floss. You know, get the wax kind. If you have some unwaxed, I use the green stuff because it's easier to show up on camera, and it's got a nice amount of wax. But I don't know what brand that is. But if you have just unwaxed stuff, you could actually use some Burt's Bees beeswax lip balm, or Carmex if you want it to smell even better. So, what do? Well, you just jump in. They say cut a longer piece than you think you need. Oh, and the final thing you need is a bunch of pen parts. Find a bunch of used pens that are old, that don't have any ink, or the ink is coagulated, and take all the parts apart. And if you do that, you'll have all sorts of little tiny things. And then anything else you think you can use, like as a pommel on the end, or a connector. Even the various pen inserts, which are hollow, just make sure there's no ink going to run out. You can actually cut the garden tie, and you see there's a wire inside. You can run one of these springs from the pen part and then use the other pen parts to insert at the end. You probably, maybe you heard on camera, but I had a thing on here that just bounced off somewhere. Here's an example too. This was a little end protector for something, and as an experiment, I cut the insulation off, ran it through the wire so I can cut it with a flat-edged razor blade, and that will be the end that goes on right after your spring. So you obviously won't see the metal because it'll be in there. You cut a little segment out here, and then you put whatever kind of pommel at the end, or maybe a loop for a handle. And so the way you slide this stuff on, by the way, is you have to twist it. So you hold it down like this and you twist it, and then it'll go on. And you can do a really good length if you want. Just take some patience. Pressure, twisting, and it goes on. So, like here's the end of a Bic stick, a red pen, which will make a good pommel at the end. Then you can use brads. Now, if you're making a very tiny whip, you can use these little tiny mini brads. I use a magnet, by the way, on the end of this, so if it falls off, you can pick them up just going like, oops. And then, or you can use tacks. other kind of brads, anything. Use your imagination. So here's an example of a wrapped whip handle using dental floss. See how awesome that looks? Again, it just takes patience. You tie it at this end to start with, then you wrap it around, and you tie it at that end, and you heat it up, and then you can paint it. I'd put a acrylic coat on it as a primer, clear matte coat, and then paint it, and then another matte coat on top. So here's one with the pommel on, which is just a little piece from the parts bin. You can use thumbtacks, small thumbtacks. I want to try to use these snaps at the end because they look kind of cool. So that's about it. I think get it. Look at the nice handle you can make out of this. You could take the end, mount it on like this, cut it, and then run something through, and then take something like here, something I threw in, a button battery, and you could put that at the end. All sorts of stuff. So again, it's all a matter. This is a little mini Christmas ornament. Notice it has an end too, that would slide on. So virtually every part of the pen works. I found this I threw in, and actually it's I think a G.I. Joe German style grenade from World War II. But look how that would work. You could slide that onto this, and this could be the end part, and then you put a spring around it like that, and all sorts of stuff. Okay, so get yourself some dental floss and these other things and go to town. And then you can paint it. I have a whole bunch here that I did with ends, and some are so you can hang on the belt. I'd really make this whip longer, but I just wanted to show you an example of just the structure. Here's one with that string-like. That can't be posable, but it'd be good just to be laying on the ground. The guitar string ones, the craft necklace braided one. Yeah, all sorts of different things. You could also highlight it with rub-on silver and things to give it a little definition and pizzazz, especially when you're using like braided wire and things, so you want that texture. And that's about all I have. So for the Metals Diecast Catwoman from DC, I'm out.